Yo, what's up? This is Jay Dennis, and we're back with another Ranked and Reviewed, and I am very excited and also a little nervous to do this band and their 6 studio albums. If I got a little time at the end, I might also do their 3 EPs. But today we're going to be looking at Scottish deathcore / metalcore, groove metal. They've had some different sounds over the years. Bleed From Within, where much like Seven Dust, you can't go to a single comment section on any of their videos without hearing about how underrated or how underappreciated they are. And I mean, shoot, that must be true. These guys have been around for a long time, actually, and I've been listening to them actually since like 2010, on again, off again. I haven't been a deep consumer of their albums until recently, when I found out that some of these recent singles they've been dropping off of their latest Shrine album, which just came out on my birthday. So that album is still fresh, and that's why we're here doing this today. But like I said, I've been listening to these guys since their second album, Empire, and I listened to Humanity back then. But over the last decade, not a whole lot until getting reacquainted recently. And boy, am I glad I've done that. That's why I love making these videos. I'm going to try to not make them so damn long, but remember, I'm ranking and reviewing albums here. But before I get into it, yeah, like I mentioned, this band has gone from more deathcore sounds of like the late 2000s to more of like a metalcore with some groove, a little bit more technical stuff in there, getting a little bit more melodic too. And it's not just the music that's changed, but it's also the vocal style too. But these guys are still pretty damn heavy and write really great music. And much like a lot of other bands that I've ranked and reviewed, this was not an easy discography to rank, believe it or not. This is one of the more challenging ones I've had to do. One of the hardest ones I've done since like Black Dahlia Murder or like any other band that's been so consistently good, even though these guys have switched up their sound a bit. So I'm probably going to get some heat for a difference of opinion here, but stick through for the whole video. You'll be happy you did, because you'll find that I enjoy all their material, and I think I have some pretty good reasons as to why, aside from music being subjective on some level, as to why I believe certain eras might be better than others. So, without edging you guys any further, let's go ahead and get into it. There are basically two-way ties. So, the spread between these 6 albums is not particularly big. I gave the lowest album like a 8.5 and the highest album like an 8.8. So I think they're all great albums. Not a whole lot of margin to work with here, but I think I'm satisfied with this, and then I'll close off with my top 10. So at the number 6 spot, we have their first album, Humanity, which initially I was going to put this one higher up, but I've listened to all their albums several times now. It's not their worst by a lot, really, at all. It's very easy to listen to from start to finish. It's got a great solid intro. It's got some great singles like Servants of Divinity. I love the song Damnation, Everlasting. And then the final 3 tracks are actually pretty solid too, like just some of the death metal riffs you hear in like Save Your Prayers, and just like those nasty kind of like offbeat deathcore breakdowns and like jump parts a little bit that you hear in like this Absence, the closing track. This is where Scott Kennedy just sounds like his most disgusting on the vocals. Like, to me, Humanity sounds like if Count Your Blessings from Bring Me the Horizon was done better. It's got better musicianship, better vocals, better production. That's what Humanity sounds like to me. But because it's got that kind of generic death metalcore MySpace, not stank, it's got a charm to it. It was really great for a first release, but they just got so much better over the years, and that's why it sits at the bottom. Still very much worth listening to, especially if you want to, kind of take a time capsule back to the mid to late 2000s and see what all the deathcore metalheads were listening to. This was just a huge start to what they were becoming. But I do prefer Scott Kennedy's deathcore vocals. I miss those vocals. So it was hard putting this one at the bottom, but there it is. Next up, we have a 2-way tie. Could not rank these for the life of me. And like I said, I'm going to get some heat in this video, but the number 5 spot goes to their newest album, Shrine. Now, when I was listening to the singles and the music videos as they were coming out, I was like, holy shit, this might actually be their best album. But the album dropped. I listened to it from start to finish several times, and I have to tell you, I am not a fan of the clean vocals. The too many damn clean vocals on this album for my taste. And look, I've said this in so many comments already, but I don't mind clean vocals at all. But they have to be executed well. And for a band this heavy and this intense, I don't think the clean vocals match the intensity of this band. Not to shit on, what's his name, Stephen Jones. He's the rhythm guitarist / clean vocalist. Not to shit on his talent or his style or anything. It's just my personal taste. I would prefer to have some deeper, more masculine vocals, like Matt Heafy or Howard Jones, or something deeper. Like, I don't know, man. I just kind of feel like, even though certain eras of metal, like hair metal and then like post-hardcore and other stuff like that, had like these ridiculously high metal vocalists, I've always preferred deeper vocals. And, you know, as amazing as Bleed From Within is, I feel like this is kind of the one blemish that they have. It's the introduction of clean vocals that, in my opinion, aren't executed super well. But Shrine is still an excellent album on some levels. You got, you know, some of their best tracks on here, like Sovereign, which is actually a completely heavy song. Levitate, beautiful guitar solo leading into an insane breakdown, and even the clean vocals on that song are pretty solid. I feel like Flesh and Stone is another one of those songs where it started off great with that drop A energy, but then the clean vocals kind of ruined it. Stand Down's heavy and great. A couple songs where I did like the melody and the clean vocals were like Shapeshifter, Temple of Lunacy, I think Invisible Enemy also. So, oh, and by the way, I didn't much care for the song Paradise. I think Paradise is the worst song they've ever done. That might be like a what the fuck to some people. Oh, it's such a great outro track. It's like, no, it's not. It's not breaking any new ground. And it's half the reason I don't like these clean vocals is because in a lot of hooks they rely on ohs and woes and other vocalese, and I just think they're tired and boring, and they just kind of dilute the metalcore genre, which again, I think the guitar work, the drumming, the harsh vocals, and pretty much everything else Bleed From Within offers is next level talent. So I think the clean vocals are actually diluting the band and preventing albums like Shrine from being like some of the best albums that have come out in a long time. So again, not shitting on his technique or his style, I just don't personally think it fits in within Bleeding Within. That's why Shrine unfortunately sits towards the bottom, as well as the number 4 spot that it's basically tied with Fracture, the 2020 album. One of their shorter albums, not by a whole lot, but, you know, second shortest after Humanity. Another reason why Humanity sits at the bottom, it's, you know, just shorter. Fracture has one of their most popular songs, The End of All We Know, but I don't think that's a particularly excellent track. I think that the clean vocals, while not bad, I think it's a very well arranged song with a lot of great lead guitar work and a lot of great hooks. But just the, you know, again, the end of the actual chorus, whoa, you know, just the whoa-ohs, I get really bored with that shit. That sounds like really early 2010s of Mice and Men and other metalcore bands that were trying to be heavy, but then just, I don't know. But, you know, Fracture's got some more consistency and doesn't rely as heavily on the clean vocals, and that's why I like it more. Again, I think one of the best parts of Bleed From Within is Scott Kennedy, the lead vocalist. So when you take focus off of him, you take focus off of, you know, the best parts of the band, in my opinion. But Pathfinder's solid, Fall Away, I love the thrashiness of that. It kind of reminds me of Chimera a little bit. I love Night Crossing. I love those riffs. I love Matt Heafy's feature on there on the guitar solo. Utopia is a great track as well. But, you know, Fracture, I think, might just be a tenth bit overrated. That's like everybody's favorite album. Everybody probably loves Shrine now too. But like I said, Shrine and Fracture, this should be Bleed From Within's like fucking golden years. You got some top-notch guitar work here. You got great lead work. You got insane drumming from Ali, however you say his name, Ali Richardson. Guy's a fucking wizard behind the kit. All his cymbal work, his a lot of other drum terms I don't know. But again, I'm just the overuse of clean vocals just puts a blemish on both of these albums when they're otherwise perfect, but they sit at the bottom right now. But let's talk about some higher quality stuff as we get to the top 3. And again, guys, I think Fracture and Shrine are both great albums. I just don't love them as much as everybody else does because, again, I'm not a fan of the style of clean vocals they're using, and I don't think it's particularly mixed very well either. It sounds way too much like a fucking choir and too much like synth and too much chorus behind it. I just don't like how they're produced. Next up, another two-way tie, but I find these two albums to be quite better than the bottom three. At the number 3 spot, we're giving it to their third album, Uprising. This was kind of the album that got me into doing the Ranked and Reviewed. I felt like starting with a middle album for a change. And this one really grew on me. Originally, I thought this was going to be their bottom album, but after a couple listens, it just got better and better. What makes Uprising so fucking good is this is kind of like the last gasp of breath. The last... it's the only Bleed From Within album that's on Spotify that features any type of deathcore vocals. Have we not mentioned yet how fucking their first two albums, Humanity and Empire, aren't even on Spotify? You can't find them anywhere. It fucking sucks. I had to go on YouTube and find them. But anyway, Uprising still has some deathcore elements and some deathcore vocals, some intense vocals. He hasn't fully ditched them yet, but they're introducing some more metalcore elements here. So Uprising is kind of the perfect marriage between modern day and old school Bleed From Within. My only beef with this album and the reasons why it's not the top is because there aren't enough like high quality tracks, like excellent tracks, and I think this might be their most sonically poorly mixed and mastered album. But it's still fun to listen to. The songs themselves and the vocal performances still better than the bottom three in my opinion. My favorite song is the second track, It Lives in Me, which is also a single. I love that tapping. I love that outro. It sounds so much like a Hollow Crown Architects style. It's played in like C sharp major, I believe, or minor. My mistake. And it just sounds so fucking good. I love it. Lives in Me. And then it follows up with Nothing, No One, Nowhere, Escape Yourself. They're starting to bust out more guitar solos here. It's sounding really good. Strive is a great song. Our Divide, the title track, Uprising, another solid single. Leech, another song with an amazing outro and solo. So Uprising, I don't really have any complaints about it. I don't really do special editions on here, but on the special edition, they do have a Blood Brothers cover from Papa Roach, which is like one of my favorite songs of all time. And it sounds pretty solid. And they have an instrumental on here called Speechless, which to me kind of paces the album perfectly and adds a lot of value to it. So at the number 3 spot, we have their third album, Uprising. And to continue this two-way tie with the slight advantage to the number 2 spot, we have their second album, Empire, which means both the 3 and 2 spot are the albums that came out in that respective order. Does that make sense? Yes, the number 2 spot goes to their number 2 album, Empire, which is a much more polished deathcore experience compared to Humanity. So like I said, guys, a little bit of diversity here in my rankings. I'm not putting their metalcore stuff at the top or the bottom, or their deathcore stuff at the top or the bottom. There are times where I will listen to some bands and I will put maybe an old school kind of like elitist favorite album towards the top, but then the number 1 spot might be a surprise, or I might put a fan favorite towards the bottom. These are just my opinions, but feel free to share your disgust or your agreement with me. I feel like I'm making some decent points here. I'm having fun with this too. Like I fucking love doing these, and I love talking about metal music. Empire's awesome. It sounds better than Humanity. Again, they really came down on the mixing and mastering of those drop B guitars a lot better. It just sounds so damn dark and heavy. My only complaint with it is the artwork's a little cheesy in my opinion, but that doesn't affect the music. It's got one of their best songs. It's got The Healing, which is the song that I listened to so fucking much, 10, 11 years ago. You got the thrashiness of Vanity. You got the opening, This Is Our Legacy, which just opens on such a nasty, dark note. You just kind of feel the sludge of that guitar tone. And it continues with the thrashy, melodic talent of The Novelist and The Last of Our Kind. It's just a very consistent album from start to finish with, a couple high marks with The Healing and Vanity, Empress. So I just feel like this is just another album, much like Humanity, that's deathcore, it's heavy, it's well executed, but it's more consistent and it's got more high marks. And again, probably the best vocal album in my opinion. I love a lot of what Scott Kennedy's been doing on recent albums with his more metalcore style vocals. but I miss those fucking deathcore vocals. The way he looks and sounds in the Healing music video, he looks like a more talented Oli Sykes. Sans all the unnecessary tattoos. I don't hate tattoos, guys. I'm not a big fan of like full body tattoos, but if people want to do that, that's their prerogative. But anyway, I think Scott Kennedy just, in my opinion, just looks like a more talented Oli Sykes. If Oli Sykes continued doing deathcore stuff and didn't go all pop or anything like that. But anyway, Empire, very much a gem of an album, very much maybe a sleeper album, but to me it's a sophomore success in a lot of ways. I've heard people say shit like, who cares if Empire and Humanity aren't on Spotify? Their new shit runs circles around it. It's like, okay, that's an opinion, but it really doesn't. They're different styles. Like, the guitar work and the technicality of deathcore can sometimes trounce the elements of metalcore, or like groove metal, or whatever technical progressive stuff they've introduced in some of their newer albums. But Empire's very well executed. You got a lot of really well arranged songs here, and you got the intensity, probably making one of their heaviest albums. So after a few listens, I'm convinced that Empire's their second best album, closely tied with Uprising. But where does that leave us? It leaves us at the number one spot, which is Era, their fourth album from 2018. This is an album that I've never heard until recently, and this is easily their best album. It's maybe, aside from Empire, probably their heaviest album. To me it's their perfect metalcore album, and it's only like 2 or 3% clean vocals, and they sound fine. I don't hate how they're mixed and mastered or performed. I think that what little clean vocals exist on this album, in fact, they're so little and far between, I don't even fully remember which songs they're in. I forget if they're like in Ruina or Alive, which is my favorite song on the album, so I should probably fucking know. Alone in the Sun. This album, dude, it opens up with one of their strongest opening tracks, which is Clarity. You got the thrashiness of Crown of Misery, and then it just opens up with 4 insanely good tracks. Clarity, Crown of Misery, Cast Down, and then Afterlife, which is a excellent single, great music video. Shiver, another solid track. Bed of Snakes. Like, this album just doesn't really slow down at all. I mean, I'm Oblivion Part 2, Alone in the Sun, and Gatekeeper are kind of average in terms, like, relative to the rest of the albums, but those songs are better than a lot of the songs off of many of the other albums. But then it closes, like I said, on a strong note with Ruina and then Alive, this is the first album that they deviated away from the drop B tuning and actually introduced drop G sharp. So just that intro, the main riff, soon as these guys introduced drop G sharp and started getting a little bit deeper on the tunings, I'm like, fucking finally. Some bands can get away with playing in one tuning their entire discography, but it is refreshing to hear a new tuning every now and then, and to hear how the band adjusts to it, how the vocalists adjust to it, whether they're clean or heavy vocals. It just sounds really fucking good for this particular band. So Era is the most well-rounded, balanced album that's got, probably, to me, that's easy, that's like their pinnacle. I think they've kind of stepped back a little bit. Like, the talent has definitely gotten higher on the guitar work, if it can get a whole lot higher. They've been playing at a very high quality with the drumming and the harsh vocals and the guitars for the past few albums, but I just feel like they really peaked with Era, and if they want to get back to that, in my opinion, they need to scale back or just ditch the clean vocals. I don't think it's doing them a whole lot of favors, but that's just my opinion. If you guys like them and you feel like it adds to their last couple of albums, then let me know in the comments or do your own ranking. I would be happy to hear what your opinions are. So let's recap real quick from least favorite to most favorite. We got Humanity, Shrine, Fracture, Uprising, Empire, and Era. Era is their best album, hands down. My top 10 tracks, which span almost all 6 albums. We got Leech, we got Sovereign, Fall Away, Crown of Misery, It Lives in Me, Afterlife, Levitate, Alive, and The Healing. So that's a song off of every album except Humanity. And hey, a couple tracks off of Shrine and Fracture there, because There are great songs off those albums. I just thought the albums as a whole, like I said again, suffered to the oversaturation of unnecessary clean vocals. So, comment what you agree or disagree with. How much do you love the new Shrine album? I think it's a great album. I think all their albums are great. But I like to be honest with my reviews and not just be overly diplomatic. Let me know what you agree or disagree with. If you shan't be resort to name calling, feel free to let me know what you fervently disagree with. I love having, discussions about this, even if they're a little bit heated. We're all metalheads here enjoying quality music, and Bleed From Within probably are very much underrated and underappreciated. I hope they have continued success and they keep putting out high quality music, because in a lot of ways they are in kind of their fucking prime right now, putting out excellent musicianship and high quality sounding albums, and they don't ever disappoint with the amount of music videos that they drop for every album either. So I'm glad they don't skimp on music videos. So thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe, check out the other ranked and reviews I've done. I've done well over 50 at this point, quite a few other heavy metal bands. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.